So this week I'd like to talk about the state budget, among a few other things. But last week we passed the budget for the state. But first of all, it looks like the governor is going to strike out with her line item veto some parts of the budget that we put in, Republicans put in to protect against government overreach during the pandemic. One of those budget lines was requiring county boards to confirm local health department orders within 30 days. This would give the county boards the same power and authority the legislature has been seeking, and to work cooperatively with DHHS and not have health orders completely exempt from public comment and debate. So that was the crux of the litigation that we did last year, making sure that the governor couldn't go and make a health order or order DHHS to continue that order without any other type of guidance. The second important part of the budget that the governor will veto would have prevented public universities in our state from imposing a vaccine mandate on their staff and students. Several colleges did this in August unilaterally, with no discussion or time for students to adjust their plans before classes started in a few weeks. Unfortunately, the governor has overruled us and will allow vaccine mandates in our public university. I support vaccination. I'm vaccinated myself, but the key is education, not threats. No one should be forced to get a vaccine. It should be encouraged, but ultimately left to the person's own private medical decision. Yesterday, I attended a press conference to announce our intent to pass much needed reforms at the Unemployment Insurance Agency. The agency was not careful enough in rooting out fraud and deceit in the applications over the past year and a half. However, a problem on the state's part shouldn't be a problem on an employer's part. And that's why we put $150 million into the UIA budget to ensure that employers were not going to have to pay for the state's mistake in not controlling their costs or any type of fraud in that system. We boosted workforce development training up to $100 million for the next year's budget. Now, we're out of the worst of the pandemic, hopefully, and we have ended extended unemployment benefits. It's time for Michiganders to get back in the workforce. I know I've seen help wanted signs everywhere. Obviously, infrastructure is a top priority, which we're redirecting MDOT's $200 million in COVID relief money to local road agencies to repair local bridges. We know we have a crumbling infrastructure. It's time to get the money to the locals who know where our top priorities are, and they're going to get those things fixed. Overall, the MDOT budget is more than $5 billion. A very large investment indeed, and done without any of the massive tax increases proposed by the governor over the years, including that 45-cent gas tax hike she thought that would pass. I think I filled up at $3.30 this week. If the governor had her way, we'd pay in about $4 a gallon. Thank goodness we stopped all that in its tracks. Probably the best move was to put $500 million in the rainy day fund. We dipped into the money during the pandemic because it's exactly what it's there for. Conversely, it's important when we have extra money to replenish the tank so it's full next time we have an emergency to deal with. Yesterday, I testified in committee about the need to amend our animal abuse and animal neglect laws. Currently, animal shelters are bearing the full cost of caring and feeding these animals when they're removed from people's homes for suspected abuse. If abuse or neglect is proven, then the owners have to pay restitution, but this doesn't always happen. And sometimes months or even years have passed where the animals are housed during the legal process. My bill would require the owner to pay a bond up front so their animal can be cared for during the legal process. And if they wish the animal returned, if they're innocent. So there's plenty of due process involved, so the owner's rights are protected and the burden is on the state to prove probable cause. But many animal abusers aren't interested in fighting these charges while their animals remain in legal limbo. My bill says that if the owner doesn't pay a bond to care for the animal, then the animal is released to the shelter where it can be adopted out. Finally, I'm not done fighting for continued reforms to our auto insurance policies here in Michigan. We need to ensure that those who have been catastrophically injured have access to the care they need to get through their daily lives. I'm also excited about moving several pieces of legislation that will continue to find ways to drive down the cost of auto insurance to make it more affordable and accessible to middle-class families. We're not done fighting on this issue.